Great. Thanks, Kat. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for another great round of presentations. But before we get to those, let's talk a little bit about 10 Capital, who we are and how we got here. At heart, we help startups and investors connect for funding. Next slide. So we basically help startups get their fundraise strategy together, work on valuations, build out pitch decks and other documents. We build a due diligence report and an analyst report to take through the process as well. Then we set up events and meetings. We not only make the introductions, but we also take this all the way through to close with deep dive and due diligence meetings and follow-up calls. In short, we provide the legwork, saving you time and money. Next slide. We also help form capital for the startup ecosystem. We help high net worth start family offices. We've done several family office groups, in particular in New Mexico, where we've actually launched and built a family office panel where we're actively encouraging people to start family offices. They fund emerging managers. We also help VC funds find limited partners, mostly through the high net worth and family offices in our network. And finally, we help angel groups find members. We find a lot of individual angels will do better in a group than by themselves, and we connect them with the best group we think is a fit. Next slide. We have several online events like this each month. We have a family office roundtable. It talks about subjects relevant to those starting and running family offices. Second, we have the virtual quick pitch. It's for tech companies, and we have each company gets 10 minutes to pitch and 5-minute Q&A. Then we have the Life Science Syndicate, the one we're in today, which is for life science companies. And same thing, 10-minute pitch, 5-minute Q&A. Then we have a breakout rooms at the end. And also we have the Investor Education Series. This is for any sector, is agnostic. And then we have a topic relevant to investors. And finally, we have the in-person event. We finished up the Bay Area event, and we're now on our way out to New York next week. We'll be in Houston on November 6th, and then we'll be in LA on December 11th. If you want to learn more about our events, just go to 10capital.group and look at the events, and you'll see the other events we have coming up. Next slide. If you're a startup and you want to learn about our program, just take a picture of that QR code with your camera and fill out the form and send it to us, and we will be glad to follow up to see if this program is a good fit for you. Next slide. At the end, we'll give you a survey looking for people's feedback on what topics and other things we would like to see in the future events. We do read these and act on them, so we appreciate your feedback when we can get it. Next slide. We also have a chat bot for AI. We have been doing the Investor Connect podcast program for over 10 years and have interviewed over 850 angel VC family offices on what they invest and how they invest in startups. We also have a startup funding espresso. In the time it takes you to drink an espresso, you can learn something about startup funding and investing. These are 300-word micro blog posts that we put all of this stuff into our AI chatbot.
Hi there.
Let's hear more about it.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ava, your personal AI venture assistant. I'm your new best friend in the world of investing in startups, the 10 Capital AI chatbot. I'm here to make your journey through the startup ecosystem easier, faster, and a lot more fun. Need help finding your next big investment? Or maybe you're a founder looking for fundraising tips? I've got you covered. I pull all my knowledge from over 500 blogs, countless podcasts, and even some nifty calculators, like the How Fundable Is Your Startup tool, to give you the answers you need. So how do I work? Easy. You simply go to where I live on startupfundingespresso.com and look for me in the bottom right. As soon as I appear, go ahead and click on me to let me know you're here. And then there you go. All your questions answered at your fingertips. Whether you're into health tech, biotech, life sciences, or any of the other exciting fields out there, I'm equipped to help you navigate the trends, challenges, and opportunities in each one. Got a question? Just ask. And guess what? I even pull insights from the 10 Capital Network podcast on Investor Connect. It's packed with expert advice, success stories, and more, all designed to help you succeed in the venture capital world. So what are you waiting for? Let's chat. I'm here 24/7 to help you find the right answers, connect with great opportunities, and make the most out of your investments. See you on startupfundingespresso.com.
Great. With that, let's go and meet our panelists. We have with us 3 panelists today, and let's have each one tell us a little bit about themselves. Brian Sperling, can you tell us about yourself and your work?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. I'm Brian Sperling. I'm a urologist by training, About 5 years ago, I started into this world of investing into biotech and longevity startups, and just interested in seeing what we can do to shape the health of humanity going forward.
Great, thank you. And Mark, can you tell us about yourself and your work?
Sure. I've been around the IT industry for a number of years. I used to be CIO of TracFone Wireless when we went from 800 million to 8 billion. I work for a company called Sweetless Systems with probably about 125 different startups. Probably about 50 of those are in the healthcare spaces. Actually was CTO for one of them called Avalon AI, where we were working on the opioid epidemic, measuring data from Oscar Health and several other major hospital systems.
Great. We also have Alex Berenbaum. Alex, can you tell us about yourself and your work?
Sure. My name's Alex. I also work with Mark at Sweetless Systems. I'm the Chief Technology Officer, and we help over 200 different clients at the moment, and we have over 1,000 engineers from 15 locations all over the globe, helping all kinds of companies, both big and small. And my role is to make sure that the quality of our architecture solutions and the quality of our code base is top notch.
Thanks for that. And what we'll have is each company will do 10 minutes of pitch, and then the panelists will ask their questions for 5 minutes. We'll go around the room and have each one do one question at a time. And then for those in the audience, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box or the Q&A box. With that, let's have our first presenter come up, RespirAI Medical. Nimrod, if you could launch your slides and kick off when ready.
Thank you, Hal, for the intro. Thank you for inviting us to present. I am Nimrod Ben-Nun. I'm the co-founder and CEO of RespirAI Medical, and RespirAI Medical is focusing on the respiratory field, and we aim to revolutionize the chronic respiratory care by empowering millions of chronic patients to live healthier, longer life through a passive, real-time monitoring platform. In general, the chronic respiratory disease is a huge burden. We're talking about over 1 billion people suffering from chronic respiratory diseases, which includes COPD, asthma, cystic fibrosis, even lung cancer became a chronic disease in the recent years. And our first indication of we are decided to focus on the huge burden of COPD, which is a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. We are talking about what we call the smoker's disease, with over 500 million patients suffering from the disease. Half of them are already diagnosed with the disease. It's the fourth leading cause of death, with over 3.5 million people dying from the disease every year. And it's the fourth leading cause of hospitalizations. And we're talking about over 700,000 people hospitalized due to this disease every year, mainly due to ongoing flare-ups, exacerbations. 1/3 of the diagnosed patients suffering from ongoing exacerbations, which actually lead to an obstruction of the airways and which cause to immediate hospitalization. And it's the top 5 most expensive diseases to treat. And we're talking today about over $200 billion in direct and indirect costs in the world today. And if we're taking into just imagine a lifelong smoker, 20% of the smokers will suffer from COPD during their lifetime. There are patients which are afraid to leave their houses. They know they will face an exacerbation, a flare-up. They worry about when they'll have the next flare-up, and they have no idea what is the current status of their disease. But what if we'll be able, by measuring and analyzing very simple physiological parameters, to improve dramatically their quality of life. And this is exactly what we are doing in RespirAI. We are developing a platform which helps COPD patients and care teams to passively predict and prevent these costly exacerbations, and by then to improve the management of their disease at home, to reduce the hospitalizations and provide cost-saving benefits to the system, and most importantly, to save these patients' lives. Our platform is divided into 3 main parts. The heart and the brain part is the AI patented algorithm, which we are developing. And actually, this algorithm know how to analyze very basic physiological parameters. We are using off-the-shelf sensors like chest patch, smartwatches, smart rings, different type of sensors that know how to measure ECG and movement, and these are the only two parameters that we need in order to analyze and in order to predict changes in their chronic respiratory patients. And by then by predicting the changes, we can predict the hospitalization and we provide an alert in advance, on time, before this patient's condition is deteriorating. And all this information, the alerts and general information about the disease is being presented at a dedicated dashboard and mobile applications that we are developing. Until today, we performed several clinical studies, and the second one, the largest one, included over 70 COPD patients in 5 different clinical sites. And our interim results show that we can predict exacerbations even 2 weeks before hospital admissions. And by providing these alerts 2 weeks before hospitalization, we allow the care team to step in earlier. And by providing very simple antibiotics or steroids or any other very simple solutions to reduce dramatically the severity of the exacerbation and to prevent the hospitalization. Today, our platform has 2 different products. The first one is in collaboration with a big home care company called Right at Home, in which we monitor COPD patients at home for longer terms with the target to early detect the exacerbation and to avoid the cost of hospitalizations. We are about to start the pilot study with the Right at Home in the US before the end of the year. The second one, we are working with in collaboration with Mayo Clinic with the target to reduce the readmission rates following minimal invasive procedures and to monitor these patients, the COPD patients, during the rehabilitation period. Today, we are talking about over 40% of readmission rates at Mayo and in other respiratory centers after minimal invasive procedure, and this number must be reduced, and this is what we are trying to do. The first product, we're talking about a B2B2C model through partnership with Right at Home. In this model, we can utilize the RPM codes, remote patient monitoring codes, which actually provide over $1,000 per patient per year. And we are sharing these income with Right at Home, and Right at Home is responsible for the care coordinator activities, and dealing and monitoring the patients, and we are providing all the technical support. In our second product with the Mayo Clinic, we are, as I mentioned before, the target is to reduce the readmission cost. Today, we are talking about over $700,000 per site per year for readmission extra costs. And by using our platform, each site can save over $200,000, and we are talking about over $600 million in the US alone, only by reducing the readmission rates for these specific type of patients. And in total, our platform is the alerts is going to be presented on a dashboard, which we are calling it a one-stop shop for the chronic respiratory patients. We're talking about a real-time disease monitoring information, disease educational content, the alerts, communication with family members, and more. This dashboard is planned to be launched in the next few months in the US, when the product with Mayo and Right at Home are going to be launched after regulatory trial, after FDA approval, before the end of 2027. And when we talk about the competitive landscape, we're amazed to see that the most popular competitor are the questionnaires. So today, nurses are asking patients, calling them, asking the patient about the condition, trying to understand what is the current status of the disease, whether they are facing another exacerbation or not. Very, very low accuracy, low adherence, and you can imagine how questionnaires are working. And later on, we're talking about different type of spirometry, which is very hard for COPD patients to use, and very early stage digital health solutions, which are still, no one has the right regulatory approval for detecting exacerbations. COPD is only our first indication for our platform. Next, we're going to focus on other chronic respiratory diseases, on non-regulated wellness application, and on collaboration with pharma companies. All of these three we already started to discuss with. We have a global scientific advisory board, supported PIs and management. Our head office is in Nebraska. We have an R&D site in Israel. We have clinicians in Israel, in the US, and also the scientific advisory board in the US and Israel. From financial point of view, as you saw, we will start commercializing our product in 2026 and reaching an estimated of almost $190 million sales by 2031. With several potential acquirers like the home care companies, the medical devices companies, the pharmaceutical companies, and most interesting are the smartphones companies like Apple and Samsung and Garmin. These type of companies are developing the sensors. They have the FDA approval for the sensors, but they don't develop their own applications, and they're looking for applications globally like sleep apnea, cardiac, and respiratory applications, and they are searching for technology like ours. And a quick overview about our current financial situation. So up to today, we raised about $4.4 million, 2.6 in equity investment, and 1.8 in non-diluting funding from both Israel, the US, and from the US. Our main investor are Invest Nebraska and eHealth Ventures. It's a group of investors, including Amgen and Cleveland Clinic and others. Today, we are raising our round A of $5 million with the first closing of $2.5 million before the end of the year. We already have soft commitments from existing and new investors of over $1 million, and we're talking about per-money valuation of $12 million. That's it. I'll be happy to answer any question.
Great presentation, Nimrod. Brian, what's your first question?
Thank you for the presentation. So the sensors you're using, it's actually a combo question. And Hall, I'm sorry, I do this all the time to you, but the sensors you're using are like Fitbit, Garmin's, Oura Rings. Is that and you're then just taking the data from them and bringing them through and putting them into your AI software?
Exactly. So the target is, we are going to be what we call the sensor agnostic. Today, we are using an FDA chest patch, and we are evaluating the potential of Garmin, Fitbit, and other smartwatches. All we need is a simple ECG and movement measurements. So conceptually, we can use any kind of FDA-approved sensor that can provide this type of information. And yes, the idea is to use any kind of, in the future, any kind of smartwatch or a smart ring that can provide this information.
And what is the cost for a healthcare system or a practice to purchase your software to then do it?
Okay, so as I mentioned, there is the RPM codes, which should cover the actual remote activity. And we are talking about, it's around $95 of codes of payments per month per patient. So we are talking about around $1,000 per patient per year, which should cover all sensors, monitoring, using the platform, and getting the alerts.
And how well do you interoperate with current electronic medical records?
So today we don't need to use the electronic records. We are not analyzing the previous or past information data about the patients. All we do is we are measuring the changes, and we are providing the alerts when the current situation, current status of the patient is being changed. So we don't need the information about the drugs, information about the previous test, only monitoring the changes in the current condition.
Okay. I'll catch you some more on the breakout room.
Great. And Mark, what's your question?
Yeah, so in this setup, who is recommending the device? Is it the doctor knows about it and they're the ones that are making the recommendation to the patient of this as the monitoring? Or
Exactly.
how are you finding the patients?
Exactly. So first we have two, let's say, recommended entities that recommend the patients. First is we're talking about the clinicians in the clinics, which where they know that there is something that can improve the quality of life of the patients and monitor and provide them, the patients and the clinicians, the better information about the conditions. And also, we are working with a Right at Home, which is a home care company, which they already have the COPD patients getting different type of treatment, different type of services, and they also recommend the patients to use our system.
Okay, so they're acting as your indirect sales force to bring in the opportunities for you.
Exactly.
Okay. When you go through this, okay, so one of the challenges we always see with the models and all that is, what is your barrier or what is your unique sauce that makes it hard for a competitor to replicate what you've done?
So first, I know that everyone is referring to the patent. So we have our unique algorithm. It's called biocoupling. It's a years of study of this algorithm, which know how to synchronize between the breathing and movement of the patients. And it's an algorithm which is we got the patent and we got and hopefully we'll be able to get the regulatory approval for monitoring their condition, the COPD patient's condition. Also, we have tons of data, clinical data. We are collecting data from the dozens of patients and we are analyzing it and we are fine-tuning this algorithm. Until today, we didn't find any, and there is no other algorithm or solution that can predict and can change identify the small changes of this patient's condition. And it's a challenge. And it's a challenge that, according to our clinical results, we can solve it.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Alex, what's your question?
Hi, sorry about that. My first question is regarding the integration of the sensors to the data collection process that you're doing. Have you already integrated some of the devices? And my other question is, how are you transmitting that data from, for example, the device to some upload, data store? Is there a mobile app that you're implementing on a cell phone that collects the data and then takes that data and uploads it to some, data factory or some cloud environment and that kind of thing? I'm more interested in the technical aspects of how the implementation is done. And do you need any assistance in that section of technology?
Yeah, actually, you answered the question. I mean, we are using today a chest patch which know how to collect the data through an application that is installed on the mobile phone of the patient itself. And through the mobile application, it's going through the AWS cloud where our algorithm is sitting there and getting the information, analyzing the information, and then push it back to the dashboards and mobile application.
See,
Okay.
is there any kind of monthly subscription that the patient has to pay for that mobile app, or is that kind of something that the clinician is, where's the money coming from, I guess?
Yeah, so the money is coming from and now it depends on the reimbursement charge. I mean, if you're working with the clinic, so the clinic will pay for the let's say the payment per month, and will charge the Medicare. And if we're talking about Right at Home, it will be the patients who will pay for the home care company. So the patients will pay for the monthly license or monthly use, and then he will be repaid by the private insurance or by Medicare, Medicaid.
And we're out of time. Great questions, guys. Thanks so much. And let's move to our next presenter. We have with us now Aviana. Vanaja, if you can launch your slides and kick off when ready.
Thank you. into presentation mode.
We see it coming up. There's live now.
Again, we are developing diagnostic.
Your audio is breaking up. Can you say again?
Can you hear?
Still breaking up a little bit, but let's keep going. And are you in full slide mode or no? Okay.
Yeah. Hold
right.
on one second.
That's good.
Is that okay?
That works. That's good. Yeah.
Can you can hear me now?
Yeah. If you sit closer to the microphone, I think it picks it up better.
Okay. So at Aviana, we're developing a novel diagnostic technology which has not been used before, actually, and it's acoustic technology which is used in cellular communication for human diagnostics. Vision is to enrich lives of patients and public health with actionable data. So what is the problem in the point of care, rapid point of care? The problem is there's a gaping hole in rapid, accurate point of care. The existing diagnostic tools are unreliable and they're based on archaic technology. During COVID, we used some called flow, which is shown here, and that was 60-year-old technology. So, and that's basically primarily used in point of care. There are emerging technologies, but they're not as portable as our system is, and I'll explain to you why. As you know, diagnostics are sort of in the back burner in healthcare.
You're breaking up again. Can you sit closer to the microphone?
We're bringing up this technology at a time where it's a perfect storm of advanced diagnostics and conductor electronics. And so we are putting together a digital biosensing platform, which we call DBP. It uses RF, which are now fast, small, and low cost. We use surface acoustic wave chips that are fabricated, so rapid and low cost. The really amazing thing about this technology is we can use all of the electronics and the miniaturization found today we can also connect it to stakeholders. We eventually have a hand system that's attached to a smartphone. So it's an transmitting, and that is changed to a software that converts technology. It's a real-time binding other the several other.
You're still breaking up. Can you sit closer, please?
As I can get.
That's working.
Thank you. So basically, it's agnostic to what's binding there, but it does real-time binding and the binding and its affinity to binding very rapidly within like 5 to 10 minutes. We've demonstrated video that shows the rapidity of binding. The interesting thing is that it can, as long as there's a binding, it can detect all the way from serology and even nucleic acids without PCR protein pathogens, and the data literature that shows it can bind whole cells like the cells. Because it's so advanced, actually can build an artificial to enable cloud analytics, build data analytics, have GPS enabled precision. The interest that we can do cross domain. We have a unique capability to cross reference human for predicting healthcare, pandemics, advancing zoonotic. So our technology was for the shuttle program. Important criteria in the spaceship program, both at launch and at however, to human biology, we're getting into the first. And we'll explain to you why. We have a go-to-market FDA and in pharma companies understand the go-to-market. We want to expanding distribution. We want to start with a lab-based system. Because you can put into a lab base, we have a population, so that will rapidly and the lab technology is pretty fast. We're clinical validation stages. We need to do clinical validation of our technology. We're ready for tedious immunology. Product is Lyme.
It's still breaking up, but the slides are fairly explanatory. So I think we're reading the slides at this point, but keep going.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this. I have no idea why.
Let's go to the next slide.
So our next slide with Lyme testing. Early we can solve those problems by doing percent high. We can can do both of them, and we're licensing that from Central Florida. And other areas of Lyme.
Okay.
Why Lyme disease? It's a growing market, and it's across the U.S. To start with, since we already have early data, compared to other diagnostics, in that we have a portable system. It's field friendly. It doesn't require any laboratory resources. From small molecules to cancer cells to DNA. We've already done some work on which we'd like to advance further. So our financial snapshot is that we want to start with a small entry into the market with Lyme disease. Still be very profitable.
Okay.
We have a relationship with the university. Actually, I'm going to contract with them very soon, where they provide a whole series of engineers and graduate students to help our development. They can also enhance clinical technical development. We have this is capital efficiency. Our contract with them basically allows us to use all these resources free of charge, and we have a small royalty to give them at the end of the day. So while corporate strategy and clinical studies, Long Island University can be involved in the early development or in the engineering part of the system. And they received $600 million from the state to build a new accelerator in Brooklyn Heights, a beautiful facility in their campus. So we have the technical right now to get this going. And as we grow, we will be able to provide for the growth of the company. It's a perfect fit. Can get in areas like pharmacies, which I think is an area for walk-in, and will provide enough technical support, enough for it to be done in pharmacies. It's kind of where healthcare is going, especially after COVID, and is in which is with a portable system, and bring that back, into the doctors. So it's the advantage is its electronic chip technology. It's really using biology to directly change the electronics. We can be GPS portable. As the number of chips go up, the cost goes down. And our CATs, we have a smart strategy because we've advanced our technology with where we can relationship. We want to get to a rapid progress into a fast note right now. 510K, grow our management, and then go into. Thank you so much. We are transforming diagnostics access.
Okay. Yeah, Aviana, Banaja, I think it's a good presentation. I think we're able to read our way through it. I think we're going to need a headset for the next one, but let's try that out. But Brian, what did you draw from that? We may have a more extended Q&A time to catch up on things. What's your first question, Brian?
Yeah, it was yeah, definitely we need to get a microphone so we can hear, because I'm sure there's pieces that I missed. So I apologize if the question was answered in the presentation. But what kind of quality testing has been done? Point of care testing obviously has become very important, especially after the pandemic. We were running through all this stuff. So I think it does make a lot of sense. But what kind of quality testing? Because we've seen these sort of tests fail, sometimes epically. So I'm just curious as to what you're doing in the background, or what has already been done, excuse me, to verify that your accuracy.
Work on our own.
We can't hear that.
We've done some work already that
Okay.
has a proof of concept and shows that there's early data with Lyme disease. With the recombinant protein, we can get very high sensitivity. I can tell you this now or later. The very high robotic techniques for control.
It's gone again.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
We may take that to the breakout room is what I would recommend. Let's get Mark's question, then Alex's question. Mark, what's your first question?
Yes, since this is diagnostics and all that, are you working with CAP on your certification processes, or how are you going through the medical certification?
Oh, we'll go through the FDA regulation. So we have first do what's called a laboratory derived test, which is commonly used. It's about a $13 billion market. And then after that, we're going to go to FDA 510K. So we have regulatory experts that can help us with the 510K, and we do a comparative study in that clinical.
Okay, so in your early startup, you're selling directly to the hospital systems and offices, or are you going into the mass market and people can self-test?
We have we have a guidance strategy. Our first sales will be laboratories because we don't need what's called a clear waiver for that, and so we plan to sell to laboratories. We have a couple of laboratories already interested in the technology and validation studies. The Westchester Medical Center, for instance, which is right in the middle of Lyme country. We will sell to the laboratory in the distribution process. We will sell after that. Once we get a clear waiver, we'll get to the physician's offices. OTC is down the line, I think.
Okay. It's just that most of the labs I've worked with in the past, their big thing is their certification processes on the testing and all that. That's why I was sort of curious if they haven't put you through those trials on what false positives, what the results really are, and all that.
We've done knowledge development and now we need a clinical, and we'll go to the FDA for what's called a pre-sub meeting and get their approval of our clinical program. That's what we need to do at this point.
Okay.
Great.
Clinical data, and also a whole bunch of analytical data that we'll be doing, within site differences without. So we'll go through that process. We have that pretty much outlined.
Great. And Alex, what's your question?
How many of these devices have you already manufactured, and how many have you tested with, and what kind of results are you getting from those kinds of tests?
I would say that the fabrication is done in South Korea right now. I think that we have probably made, I don't know, thousands of them, and we've tested hundreds of them.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
That's
you.
our time. And like I said, we'll move a lot of these questions to the breakout room. So if you guys can stay around for that, we can recover some of these as well. But thanks so much, Vinaja. And with that, let's move to our next presenter from Combat Medical. We have Edward Bruce White with us. Edward, if you want to launch your slides and kick off when ready. If he is still coming together, then we'll have Lorenzo of Renerva go.
Hi
Here he
there.
is.
Oh,
There you
sorry
go.
about. I
Okay, no
apologize.
problem. Yeah, go ahead and just kick off when ready, and we'll go.
Okay, great.
And we see your slides.
Just bring it up whole. Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Hal. My name is Ed Bruce White. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Combat Medical. I've been with this inception. Combat is about delivering hypothermic technology, hypothermic drug delivery. So we significantly improve delivery of existing drugs and potentially new drugs, and significantly improve them. When I mean significantly improve, I'm talking about a 50% relative improvement, and we'll talk about that later in the present compared with the best approved drugs. We've raised 20 million to date. We're looking to raise 5 million this round. And actually, as of today, it's actually 3.7. That's not committed. That's committed. That has been completed on of the money. Sorry, 3.2. That leaves 1.8, and we've got soft circle now about 1 million. So we're making very good progress within this round. So what's the problem? There's been nothing that's in terms of no innovation that's affordable, effective, and tolerable in the world's most expensive cancers. And we're talking about bladder cancer that we're focusing on today. And what does this mean if we put it in context for patients? So if we take the best approved treatment that's available in the market, which is recently approved by J&J, it's called TAR-2000, after a year's worth of treatment, they've had that. And these are the patients that have got the very worst type of bladder cancer. So they've been told that they're having their bladder out, and they've been given an option now to try and save their bladder. But after a year, only 4 of them are free of disease, and 6 aren't, and that means 6 people have had their bladder removed. And we contrast this to HIVEX treatment and data that we have that we're releasing. In the same 10 patients that we have after 12 months of treatment, 7 patients are still free of disease, and that means only 3 patients have had their bladder removed. Having your bladder removed is a really nasty, morbid operation. There's a 5% mortality rate after 90 days, so it's not something taken lightly. And what's also different about Combat is we've got commercial credibility. We've got sales in 2024. We're on track for double-digit growth in 25, 500,000 EBITDA and 1 million EBITDA in 25. We've done over 100,000 treatments across about 350 hospitals, mainly university hospitals in Europe because we're CE approved. So in 35 countries, got over 40 publications. We've got strong patents. We're the only company to be able to effectively deliver hypothermia, but we've got strong patents to be able to protect this. And it's a platform technology. We're focusing on bladder cancer, but we also have a system for peritoneal cancer. And we've had $4 million of Innovate UK grants, and we've developed 2 new catheters to be able to access colorectal cancer and also ovarian cancer. And they're about to go into first in human trials. And what we're here today and looking for is to raise money for our pivotal FDA trial. So we can support ourselves and pay for my salary and pay for the team's salary, but we can't pay for expensive trials to be able to get us into the US market. And I'll talk about that later. So how does it work? We worked by recirculating in a closed loop into in this case, the bladder. We catheterize and then we circulate the fluid and we recirculate it. And that means it's only targeting the affected organ, so there's no systemic side effects. We're able to deliver the heat very accurately because of our powerful aluminum heat exchanger. And we're able to control the pressure so the patients can withstand it, which is a very important part of the treatment as well. And it's easy and user-friendly to use. I mean, we've got 100,000 treatments, but it has to be set up. It's a high-volume treatment that we're treating, so it has to fit in with existing clinical practices and be used with different drugs. So we've been used with over 5 drugs already. And it has the potential to be used with some of the drugs, new drugs that I'm mentioning, because they need a catalyst. They need something to start it. And our system has been shown to be very active to be able to do that. So why hypothermia? What's so special about hypothermia? Well, cancer cells are more susceptible to heat. They're more fragile than healthy cells. Healthy cells can withstand temperature better. So cancer cells get stressed to 106 Fahrenheit. And what happens is that then activates the natural killer cells. This is the natural immune response that everybody has in any cell. and it then targets the heat stress cancer cells that builds a lasting immunity. So the cancer cells become, and then in addition to that, what we've shown from a scientific perspective, that you can get 10 times more cancer, it becomes better concentration, better penetration. And we've also demonstrated this, not just in the Science and Cells, which have been shown, but also ourselves. Duke University has published a paper showing that we got actually 11 times more chemotherapy approved. And so that's the effect that we have. And again, this lasting effect that we create, the memory that enables it to, enables the patient to stop the cancer coming back. Sorry, excuse me. So we look at the patient journey. Patient typically is diagnosed and they have then surgery to remove the cancer. Then after that, in high-risk cases, which we're focusing on, very high-risk disease, they'll have immunotherapy. When they have immunotherapy, they'll have to have 27 treatments over 3 years. And then if they have a lower case, they'll have standard chemotherapy. But if we actually look at this in the round, that means 50% of patients in the first year will actually have a recurrence. 80% of all patients will have a recurrence across their lifetime. So it's highly recurrent disease, which is why it's the most expensive case. And then eventually, once they've actually been treated for, they'll have to have their bladder removed anyway. And a bladder has a lifetime of incontinence, lifetime of treatments, 5% mortality death. If we compare that to our treatment, it's exactly the same diagnosis, same surgery that you have. And then after 15 treatments, the same chemotherapy that you have, then we make it, because we're supercharging, we make it more effective. So we significantly reduce the recurrence rate, the progression rates. And I'll show you some of the papers that we have on this shortly to be able to show it. But this means that because we have less treatment, so the patient has a better quality of life, but beyond that, they'll have less likely to have their bladder removed. So significant improvements in terms of clinical outcomes. And we look at these in terms of clinical outcomes that we have and presented. This is exactly the same group that we're going for FDA approval, that we've been able to show that in the patients that are being told that they're now to have their bladder removed, that after 1 year, we have a 70% complete response rate. And if we compare this to other treatments, again, we've got repetitive treatments. That was one presentation. This is another clinical trial from Cologne University showing 67%. So repetitive treatments, and also this is recommendations from the global, international global group on bladder cancer that recommend in terms of when all treatment options have been exhausted, you should now consider hypothermia. So we're beginning to get in the guidelines, but what we need is large clinical studies to be able to show that, and that's why we're running a large trial. And if we actually compare it to other cancer treatments in terms of that now, like I say, Johnson & Johnson that was just approved the other day, is that we're showing significantly better in this type of short term, 3 months, but at 12 months, when you start looking at a longer follow-up, with significant improvement, a 24% overall improvement, and actually a 50% over relative improvement. So significant improvements in terms of outcomes. And if we put this in place in terms of the market, companies like Keytruda have had their drugs approved, and they've got businesses that are showing incredible results in other cancers, but in bladder cancer, only 19% complete response rate. Ferring, another drug that's been approved called nandifadrine, then a $500 million license deal that they paid out, but only a 24% complete response rate. Immunity Bio, also approved by the FDA, again 36%. J&J, they're now reporting that they believe they're going to be doing 5 billion in sales per year with this product line, a 44% complete response rate. And CG Oncology, still to be yet to be approved, but actually floated for 1.8 billion with a 46% complete response rate. If you could compare that to us, that shows that we're significantly better in terms of the landscape compared with drugs, that we're affordable, better tolerated, better efficacy, better price. And then in terms of other treatments, nobody's been able to actually effectively deliver hypothermic chemotherapies effectively. So again, we're the only people with a treatment that's viable on the market. And if we look at it from a bottom up, just in the US, looking at the BCG unresponsive, this is where the clinical trial is. There are 10,000 of these patients. This is well established. That means they have 15 other treatments, 150, $4,000 a treatment. This compares to $36,000 that others are selling their per treatment, and about $600,000. It's a conservative market of $600 million just in the US. The total addressable market in the world is significant. This is supported by analysts. that show that the market has the potential to grow to 21 billion by 2034. And we have an FDA pathway that's been approved. This was led by Jonathan Jarrett, ex-FDA Chief Medical Officer, and it's been the 505B pathway for a new drug application. We've also had reimbursement. This trial is up and running, and I'm glad to report the first patient has now been enrolled and will have its first treatment this coming Friday. So we're on track to get the interim data. When I say that, we are now recruiting patients. It's active as well. We've got a great team, both me and Alberto, my business partner. We've launched many products and taken them to market. Over 20 between us. I've got a great team that have been there. But what's more impressive is actually our clinical advisory group. These are like the who's who of bladder cancer and hypothermia. These are really world-leading experts that's supporting us, advising us, and helping us develop the products. We've got a global presence. We have a business model that's been accepted in terms of a distribution, razor blade model. We sell the equipment and we get our money back from the catheters. We've already getting a 90% of our revenue today is coming from single use and capital sales, which shows the business model is working. High margins, 80% blended margin today. We expect that to increase up to 90% when we get better economies and we move into US, which is a higher price point, and we extract strong sales. This is a conservative sales forecast that we have starting today. You can see that we're at 4 million today, we're going to 4.7 million, which is only 11% growth. We have to be conservative because more than 50%, 60% of our future revenue to pay for the trials and supporting the business actually comes from ourselves today. So again, if we overcook that, then we'll fall short. We'll need to have to come back and ask for more money, which we don't do. We live within our means. We know how to run a business. And you can see as we grow up, it's conservative sales in terms before we get FDA approval, and it starts growing exponentially in the years to come. So the problem, have we been able to solve it? Well, Ivec, we show a 70% complete response rate compared with the others, which is significantly better. We're more affordable. We have low side effects compared with the others. We've already done 100,000 treatments compared with all the others that some of these now have been approved, but they're not being approved and actively used. They've only done 10,000 treatments, we estimate. That means we've done almost 10 times as many more than anybody else in the world, more experience and with better results. And in terms of where we are today, we have an FDA approved trial that's recruiting and physically have patients. We need to be able to complete the Series A money to be able to pay for the $7 million FDA trial. And then within 18 months, we'll have the first interim date. And at that point, we've seen companies go public with valuations of 1.8 billion. And so what you have to see is our historical data, is that really reliable enough to be able to transfer into a phase 3 FDA trial and get the results that we're seeing, which are 50% better. And if it is, then we'll have a massive valuation inflection point. And in summary, where we are today, we've raised 20 million. The pre-money value is 38 million. It's over actually 3.2 million today that's been committed, and $1 million of soft circle. That's all to fund the FDA trial. The offer is for ordinary shares, and for every ordinary share at the moment, if you invest, and we'll be able to close in November, you'll also get one warrant, and that warrant is given a 25% discount to a future investment round. We are having potential sale discussions with J&J, even though they're a competitor. We're in discussions with them in Boston Scientific, and we've also spoken to Bard and Teleflex in the past. We've got a due diligence report, which is done through the Kretsu process, which is available as well, which provides a much more in-depth detail. And this is an overview and summary of what where we are in terms of the process and what we have to do in the future. Sorry, I realize I've overrun, but I'd like to take questions now.
Sure. We have time for one question each. Brian, what's your question? You're on mute now.
There you go. What center is doing the trial in the U.S.? And which drug are you using? BCG, gemcitabine, mitomycin? What are you warming in the bladders?
We're using mitomycin, and we don't have to have any US centers. So we asked the FDA specifically, and this was the game changer, because in the UK and in Europe, actually in BCG unresponsive, for example, in Sheffield, who take out the most bladder, when they most bladders of any hospital in the UK, when they can't, we're the standard of care that they offer. So in the UK, we actually going to get paid for the trial. Well, not paid for the trial, but they'll actually pay for our treatment during the trial. So we're standard. So we don't have to pay for any nursing or treatment costs. We just have to pay for the additional tests. And the FDA have opined that that will be acceptable. The main reason being is because it affects 75% males. It's a large proportion of, in terms of trial recruits, are always going to be they're white males, so that means there's a high population. So you don't have any disparity, for example, African Americans or Muslims and Asians, which we have slightly skewed. So it's going to be translatable. So we don't have to have it. It's 25 NHS hospitals. At the moment, we've got 6 of them live, and by the end of the year, we'll have all 25 up and running. And like I say, the first patient's going to be catheterized this Friday.
Great. We'll take the rest to the breakout room. But Mark, what's your question?
I was going to defer my question to Brian since this is his area of expertise. So, Brian, if you want to ask another question.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. Ed, I'm a urologist. That's why he deferred to me. So you're going to be selling the platform and the drug in combo. Are you selling it to clinics, to offices, to hospitals? Like, what is the strategy behind the sales?
So it's sold as a combination drive. So the system will be given away free of charge, most likely, and we will sell the kit and the drug as a drug device combination. It'll be packaged together. It's a 505(b)(2). And it'll be sold, it's given in an outpatient setting, so it can be sold to both hospitals, outpatient clinics. We have used it in 20 patients in the US on humanitarian basis, and it was just used in the hospital, in the clinic there, where they would normally be giving intravesical chemotherapy or BCG immunotherapy.
Great. Alex, did you have a question?
I have a quick question. So as you advance toward your 2029 approval milestone and possibly an IPO or a sale or something like that, how do you plan to balance your company's operational focus between, the clinical execution, which is what you're doing now with, bladder and ovarian trials, and the long-term goal of becoming possibly a global standard using this kind of drug delivery?
I mean, we've already got a team that's building up 35 people, so we sell in 35 countries, so we know how to run a business. As we move towards the US, that provides a specific challenge and expertise, which we'll bring in. I'm actually hoping to work with my old boss, who will hopefully head up the US operation, but there are other people that we work with to have their expertise. But we balance out in terms of trials. We've got in Europe, it's very easy to be able to run and set up clinically initiated trials because we're working with the doctors. They're the ones that helped us create the catheters and the treatments, including actually some US doctors. And so, we divide between them. At the moment, I must admit that both me and my partner, we run both clinical and R&D, and then we look after separate parts of the business. As we grow, we'll be able to have more expertise, so we can actually focus on our core expertise, which is more the clinical and the development side. And leave sales and marketing potentially to other people as we grow, especially in the US, which will be the type of the center because it's the largest market, but it's the most valuable market because, like I say, we become a new drug. We've already had King and Spalding confirm that we will have our own J code, so we can price like a new drug in the US, and there's precedents being set that being shown that we'll be able to get that. So again, $60,000 for a treatment per patient per year is an awful lot of money. But if you compare it to what's actually been approved, which is selling at about $600,000, and we're 50% better, it offers great value for money, even in the US market.
Great. And we're out of time. We do have breakout rooms coming up here in a moment. And let's move to our final presenter, Lorenzo of Renerva.
Well,
Go ahead and launch your slides and kick off when ready. There they are. We see them.
All right. So I'm Lorenzo Soletti. I'm president and CEO of Renerva. Renerva develops technology for peripheral nerve injury. The peripheral nervous system is located everywhere in the body and communicates sensation and motion to and from the brain. As such, it can get injured in several different ways through trauma, iatrogenic injury, or underlying disease. I'd like to focus your attention on the case of extremity amputation, where a single extremity amputation takes away, critically injure multiple peripheral nerve on the path of the limb transection. Each of these peripheral nerve that gets transected is susceptible to the development of what's called painful neuroma, which is a 2.2 billion pain point that literally affects hundreds of thousands of amputees, cause chronic pain, a severe impact on quality of life and productivity. And I want to highlight the fact that amputations are the #1 surgical reason for the development of opioid use disorder, which has been an epidemic that has plagued the United States in the past 20 plus years. Our first product is fully developed and ready for clinical use and commercialization. It's a nerve cap technology called Renerva Terminus. The technology has shown a tremendous impact in reducing the development of neuroma by preventing the growth of the nerve. So it's a neuroinhibitory technology. We've shown in high impact factor journal publications a 17-fold reduction in nerve growth compared to a standard of care control. Other studies still in standard model, these are preclinical model, also published in high impact factor journal from the Nature Publishing Group, have shown a 3.5-fold reduction in the pain experience for the animal over the course of 4 months of evaluation, weekly evaluation. Now imagine a 3.5-fold reduction in chronic pain, what that might signify for a patient suffering from this condition. Might be the difference between conducting a hell of a life under chronic pain or a seemingly normal life. The technology is protected by 3 patent families in the United States and abroad. The first US patent from one of these families has been issued in July this year. We've also received a favorable informal freedom to operate assessment based on US published claims without direct infringement. The technology, as I mentioned, is a porcine-derived nerve cap that can be connected to each extremity of the nerve, so a nerve stump that has been created by an amputation. The technology has an internal inhibitory matrix that is proprietary. Imagine a series of aligned pores, longitudinal aligned pores that allow the nerve unit of growth, which are called axons, to grow, but finding a resistive path, and more importantly, preventing them from entangling with themselves and with other axons, which is another mechanism by which this disorganized growth that is neuroma forms. The technology degrades over the course of 2 months and is fully replaced by patient tissue and leaves the nerve end completely interrupted in terms of nerve growth. We've shown up to 2 months after full device degradation and resorption that the nerve end is stable with no further pain. So the different stakeholders in the acquisition pipeline of these technologies tend to benefit from the use of this technology. In particular, end users, these are physicians, surgeons that perform extremity amputation, would experience the opportunity of providing their patient a reliable and better outcome. And over time, as dedicated physician fee reimbursement codes are obtained, they would also benefit from increased profitability. For patients, it's very intuitive what the technology that would prevent chronic pain would benefit, how they would benefit them. For providers, these are purchaser, so integrated delivery network, hospital system that would purchase the device through purchase agreement. They would benefit from increased profitability as dedicated reimbursement is obtained for the technology. And finally, payer, who are the ultimate, of course, decision maker, private and public insurance like Medicare, they would stand to benefit with a lower total cost of care. Imagine the status quo, Medicare reimburse on average $30,000 for an inpatient amputation diagnosis for a patient requiring amputation. In 48% of the cases, in the case of lower limb amputation, this patient develop neuroma and require pharmacologic treatment, which is palliative, and ultimately another surgical procedure, which is the only remediation after neuroma is formed. That surgical procedure can cost an additional $20,000 to $30,000, and many of these procedures are susceptible to failure. They recur and they require additional procedure. In the alternative scenario that we're proposing, the payer would reimburse an incremental cost of about $1,000 to $2,000 upon the initial amputation to then save literally tens of thousands of dollars down the road. The neuroma market is at $2.2 billion US and about $6 billion global total addressable market. Is divided in the segments of prevention, which is the one we talked about so far, and treatment, which is after neuroma is formed and a surgical procedure is needed, which is a much smaller market. Our initial target is on the prevention. The technology would position itself in the competitive landscape in which they're either simple surgical procedure, which are highly adopted, they're affordable but do not work. They have a very high rate of failure. On the other side of the spectrum, we have very complex surgical procedures, which are actually effective. They're very expensive, but as a result of the complexity and the high training required, less than 3% of US patients receives them. So the technology position itself as the technology offer the affordability, the ease of use, and the efficacy that the current competitive landscape is clearly missing. The technology is going to be that's going to be commercialized based and regulated as a Class 2 medical device. We have a very clear path. We discussed this with the FDA. We're also pursuing a breakthrough designation, which is a particular designation that would ensure dedicated reimbursement and desired profitability for providers and physicians. We're a team of dedicated professionals with more than 150 years of cumulative experience in the field of peripheral nerve injury and repair, in the science side, the commercialization and development of medical device and many-functional areas required for a company at this stage to succeed. Pete DiComo, one of our board members, successfully exited multiple medical device companies. We also have a medical and advisory board team composed of key opinion leaders in Center of Excellence in the United States, and also expert in peripheral nerve research. We have a pretty exciting timeline for our first product. We are 1 or 2 months away from receiving IDE approval from the FDA to perform a pilot clinical trial at Ohio State University in 10 patients. We're less than 1 year away from receiving FDA clearance for this technology in the United States. We expect, we're currently raised a bridge to Series A round. We'll talk about it in a second, but we expect to raise a Series A financing in 2026 that will allow us to launch the product upon market clearance later in 2026. And reach an exit in 2028 to 2029 timeframe through a merger and acquisition from existing players in the space. We've already had multiple discussions with some of the highest fit potential acquire. They're very favorable comparable deals with enterprise value to revenue ratio multiple between 4 and 10x. So we're raising a 1.5 million bridge to Series A round in the form of convertible note plus warrants. We will support our pilot clinical study with this money, as well as submit the 510K clearance package, so the 510K, and receive 510K clearance in Q3 of 2026. The terms are very favorable for investors, including an 8% annual interest, a 25% discount rate, and 50% warrant. We also have a 10 million pre-money valuation cap, which is about the 25th bottom percentile of the pre-money valuation cap for Series A deals, past 50 deals comparable in the past 5 years in the United States. So in summary, we have an exciting large market with a highly effective product with strong IP and strong physician endorsement. We are advanced in our negotiation with the FDA with an IDE that is pending with a validated 510K clearance path and less than 1 year from market launch. We have multiple products on our pipeline in the same vertical of peripheral nerve injury and repair, which we haven't talked to. We also have raised very little money, $2 million in non-dilutive capital and 7.5 million in non-dilutive capital, so federal grants, and only 2 million in dilutive capital. We have a due diligence report available in a data room. We've also received a tremendous validation and momentum from different stakeholders. We have 38 investors. Federal agencies have supported this project. We have significant clinical endorsement and also commercial partnership. So we hope that you'll join our mission to help amputees never to suffer again from chronic pain due to painful neuroma. And I'm happy to answer any question at this time. Thank you.
Great, Lorenzo. Brian, what's your first question?
So a lot of times these amputations take place in emergent or semi-emergent or infected limbs. What has it been tested in those settings? Because I think that's the most common time we really are doing these types of things. these types of surgeries?
Yes. So the short answer is no. We don't have clinical data at this time. All of our body of evidence is based on preclinical animal data. So we performed 7 different animal studies entailing more than 200 animals and publishing in 2 major publications. To answer your question, also, patient with underlying disease, which you're referring to, diabetes, peripheral arterial disease, are those constituting about 80% of amputations. It's correct. We have not tested the notion that an infected patient would have more or less propensity for this technology to work. However, given that this patient receive a significant amount of amputation, and given that tissue-based technology have been commonly used also in the context of infected, for example, wound imaging, a gigantic field of tissue-based technology is, of course, chronic ulcers. I do not anticipate this technology will have any issue with that more complex case scenario.
Yes, Mark, what's your question?
So the device is installed in the initial surgery or as a follow-up surgery?
Both. Our initial target for commercialization is a preventative use of the technology at the time of the initial amputation. So, as the colleague mentioned earlier in the question, 80% of amputation are performed by physicians that do not specialize in peripheral nerve management. These are vascular surgeons or orthopedic surgeons that do not always or often or in most of the cases have specialized nerve management. So they would have the opportunity of taking this technology off the shelf as they're doing their amputation with no procedural workflow changes or deviation, and in only 1 or 2 minutes implant this with no training required at the end of each nerve stamp as they're doing their normal amputation procedure. So this would be our initial our main target, even though they will not be our initial end user. Our go-to-market strategy is 2 stages. In the first stage, we will target key opinion leader. We have extensive relationship with Center of Excellence in the United States with key opinion leader that specialize in the peripheral nerve management. They're really enthusiastic about testing this technology. And as clinical experience is collected through this, high gravitas, high expert in the field, then we will target the majority of the physicians, which are those that do not specialize in peripheral nerve injury and repair.
Okay, and what you're selling as the code then is just the in-cap device. There's nothing else that's actually sold to the doctor's office or the supply chain. It's the in-cap devices.
Yeah, it's fully the device is fully packaged and available off the shelf. Here is a picture just to give you a sense. It's available in different sizes. So the physician would take it out of the storage room in the operative setting and decide, pick up, select the correct size, rehydrate it for, few seconds, and then implant it. So this would be the unit of product that would be sold. In our commercial strategy, we also envision selling combination packages. For example, imagine a below-knee amputation package that would include, for example, more than 1 device in the same package, and this kind of combination or combo would come with a discount. So the provider would have an incentive to buy a combo package because it would be, of course, cheaper than purchasing the multiple individual units.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, what's your question?
Yeah, my question is, what are some of the key challenges that you foresee in scaling the manufacturing? The sterile implants, the complex biomaterials, and the supply chain logistics of this. Because this can't be something that you can just get out of any location. It's got to have specialty in manufacturing of this stuff.
So as one of the colleagues mentioned earlier, the United States is the largest market, both for technological adoption and also for the amount of reimbursement that is provided for each of these technology. Our supply chain is fully developed, is based in the United States. We have a contract manufacturer organization that's also part owner and partner, a strategic partner in Renerva. We have already completed 4 pre-commercial batches of the product, on average 500 to 900 units of product per batch. the capacity of the current manufacturing facility is sufficient to bring us to an exit, to reach the level of sales that would be exit compatible after we demonstrate market validation, in order to scale up that operation, that existing operation, which, by the way, produces a cost of goods sold of $80 per unit, which, based on an average selling price of $1,400 per unit, we anticipate a market entry. We're talking about 94% gross margin at market entry. So in order to scale this up, an acquirer would use existing, all of our manufacturing processes perfectly codified and described in documentation. It's proprietary. We have several elements of the manufacturer and the tooling that is proprietary, but is easily transportable to a larger facility that would facilitate the scale up. Internationally, that will also need to be combined with locally sourced tissue. So our qualified tissue from porcine origin derived from a qualified vendor in Indiana. If we sell this product in Europe, for example, I believe, I recall correctly, the CE mark regulation would require to source the product in Europe. But also that this is like normal, it's not a specialized, I mean, it's a common good, right? Porcine product. So there are millions of patients that are implanted with porcine product globally. So it is not a problem that it cannot be solved.
All right, that's the end of our presentations and the end of our questions. At this point, we'll want to thank the presenters for a great presentation today. I want to thank each of our panelists, Brian, Mark, and Alex, for great questions as well. We'll open up the breakout rooms and we'll see you guys in there. Be about 15, 20 minutes, and then everybody will have a chance to have gotten around, and then we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time, or I'll see you in the breakout rooms too. Thanks so much.